Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter. Hey everyone, welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm PVSB, one of the aforementioned CPG guys. I'm also the Vice President of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards, a mobile loyalty platform. As always, I am joined on this educational journey about how brands and retailers engage consumers by my dear friend and a thought leader in the consumer packaged goods world. Please join me in welcoming a CPG impresario extraordinaire. Ooh, he's known as Sri. Sri, how's it going in La La Land out on the left coast?
I'm going to write all those words down and practice them, man. But Peter, we're at like the 175 episode mark. And happy to share, we've also crossed 10K followers a while ago, all organic. Every single one organic. And of the 175 approximate episodes we have, this, Peter, will be the most important episode we have ever done. And I can't wait to say who it is. I won't steal your thunder. I won't steal the guest thunder. I cannot wait to engage in dialogue. And Peter, I hope you'll give me the full liberty and luxury of not sticking to the script.
Sri, I'm going to go total fanboy on our guest today, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm right there with you. But before we get to our guests, I want to remind our audience that all of our content, those 175 episodes that you mentioned, they're all available now on 40 plus podcast platforms. Like, I found one 2 weeks ago that I'd never heard of, and we were already on it. So if there's a platform out there that does podcasting and we haven't heard about it, we're probably on it anyhow. So you can find it anywhere. But if you can't, just go to cpgguys.com. You can find links to the platform and a whole lot of other content. And of course, it's a very expensive, Sri. It's costly to follow the CPG Guys. We charge nothing. So pretty much anyone can afford that, right? It's free. And if you're not already following us on LinkedIn.
Peter, it reminds me of a song. I'm so sorry. When the song
go ahead.
It reminds me of Metallica's song, Nothing Matters.
Nice. We are eclectic, if nothing else, on this podcast. But if you're not following us on LinkedIn, just go to the website linkedin.com or open up your mobile app, because most people just use the mobile app, and enter CPG Guys in the search box. And when you get to our page, just click the blue follow button. That way you are always top of mind, and you will see all the content we produce, links to our podcast, but so much more, thought leadership that we find very interesting. And again, it's free, right? And Sri, I want to remind everybody, we went global, right? Back in January 1st, we launched in partnership with our friends Ephraim and Daniel over in Europe, the FMCG Guys. So it's taken the CPG Guys format over to the EU and beyond. And it's really great. It's very exciting. To learn more, just either go to fmcgguys.com or go to cpgguys.com. On the very top of the page, the link is to FMCG Guys. So again, it's really great. And of course, if you think that you've got something to contribute to this conversation about your brand or your company, hey, just drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. We'd love to hear from you. So avid listeners of this podcast know how, and this isn't even a descriptive enough word, proud Sri and I have been to partner with Network of Executive Women. And I'm really excited to tell you that they've just gone through a full brand transformation. New is now Next Up, an organization advancing all women, let's remember those words, in business. They're seriously transforming their programming to embrace everything now and move faster than ever towards what's next. So here to speak with us about Next Up and the way women and men, because that's what we're doing here, Sri, can get involved in their community, avail themselves of the tremendous, and I can't emphasize that enough, tremendous resources to advance their career, improve their leadership skills, and get informed and entertained by, they have a radio show and podcast. It's called Advancing All Women. We talk about it on our episode every week. And by the way, I'm just going to stop right here and say, Sri, the most recent episode, what we've been listening to, was about mental health in the workplace. it was such a moving episode. People, this is a very critical issue. We talk a lot about, we had our little video that we posted on unconscious bias, but this is more about what we deal with internally. I'm not afraid to say I have a therapist. I speak with him every week, and it helps get my head straight and helps me work through things so that I'm a better colleague, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father. And I think it's something that I'm just incredibly impressed by the fact that Next Up, the rebranded New, is doing. But Advancing All Women is a wonderful podcast. You should subscribe to it. You can listen to it live. It's on 7 a.m. Pacific on Friday mornings on some radio shows. You can get all the links in the digital liner notes of this episode. But enough of me babbling on. I want to.
One thing, though, Peter, that you kind of highlighted is the importance of being able to talk and convey what's in your heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
A little known secret, or maybe it's a well-known secret. Peter and I do that every day with each other. We literally.
Oh my God.
Sometimes it's a half hour, sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's text messages, sometimes it's an actual call. But we actually talk about everything and everything.
Shri calls me up and says, Peter, what's going on with you and your family? How are you doing? How are you trending towards that? He's much more focused on that. First, it's my family, then it's the podcast, then it's like, okay, what are you doing when you're not podcasting and with the family? So it's just incredible. But you're right on, Shri. But I met our guest several years ago. It was an event on top of the Merchandise Mart that was being hosted by Beam Suntory. And that was where I began my journey as one of her biggest fans. I want to welcome to the podcast the president and CEO of Next Up, Sarah Alters. Sarah, how you doing?
Peter and Shri, I am your biggest fan. You are both, you absolutely practice what we preach. You are male allies to the nth degree, and I am absolutely fabulous being able to have this conversation. Although I humbly appreciate it, I didn't know I'd have to sing. Like we don't sing on our radio show or podcast. So you guys we don't even hold a candle to you. You're musical. I love
to sing on the podcast. Any chance. I'll belt out a Billy Joel tune any chance I get.
No better than that.
But before we get to the questions we've prepared for you,
sure.
I said I couldn't be happier than I am now to have you on the podcast. And we are obviously big fans of your podcast, Advancing All Women. And we've included, so we have on cptguys.com, we have a PDF document, which is the podcast we like to listen to when we're not obsessed with listening to ourselves talk. And you are prominently displayed right there at the top of the list as one of the podcasts we love to listen to. But can you let our audience know before we get started where they can learn more about Next Up online and give us a brief overview of your mission and values?
NextUpIsNow.org is our new URL where you can find everything you'd ever want to know about our incredible organization and mission. And as you mentioned, Peter, we've been going through a transformation over the last couple of years, but it was in this past month or so that we reached that point where, hey, look, our name, our brand, our voice, our messaging, our positioning, it had to ladder up to and really connect directly to that transformation. And as we all know, right, we've all been transforming, heck, these last 2 years, no cakewalk, and we all personally and professionally had to transform. And so New is on that same journey, our prior name, along with everybody else the last 2 years. And it was in that transformative period of time that we decided, hey, our voice and name need to reflect who we now are. So at nextupisnow.org, you can find everything you need to know about us. We're a 501c3, a nonprofit. And as you already appropriately shared, Peter, our mission is to advance all women in business. So we partner with over 900 companies across the United States and Canada. Half the Fortune 500 work with us. We've got companies from tech, from financial services, service providers, CPG, retail, you name it. We also have over 15,000 members. And the way we provide value, happens in really three core ways. One, we are, as our mission says, we're here to advance all women in business. And women are not broken. They do not need to be fixed. However, we can all be better leaders, right? We're constantly learning. I always say knowledge has a shelf life. And we all learned how to be new leaders, right? These past 2 years, you couldn't lead in the same way you had, prior to COVID and all the other collision of dynamics that unfolded. So we provide leadership development, content and curriculum for women so they can continue to advance and have a long and wide runway. The second thing we do is we have regions across the United States and Canada, and these regions are run by incredible volunteers. And that's where we provide all of our members with this incredible network and community. And you can elevate your personal and your professional network. And quite frankly, as a corporate brand, you can elevate your brand, out in the marketplace. But the third and the more pivotal thing, and this is where we've spent more of our time investing, development and innovation and this is that top-down approach, which is, it's not the women that are broken. It's the corporate cultures. It's the lack of infrastructure, the lack of support and services that are going to set women up for success. There's the lack of allies, like male allies like yourself. And so we provide now corporate insights and solutions to these corporate C-suite leaders and organizations so that we guide them in what to do. And so we've been around for 20 years. We're in our 21st year. We were born out of necessity, and sadly, we're still needed. So you know what? We're going to continue that good fight until we're no longer needed.
Thank you for that, Sarah. That was a great introduction to our conversation. In the digital liner notes of this podcast to our audience, we will have a link to Sarah's LinkedIn profile. We will have a link to NextUp's LinkedIn page. Please go there. There are already 39,000 followers. They could use another 1 or 2 or 20 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. So follow them. And we'll also have a link to NextUp's website.
Thank you.
This is just a great thing. So let's get right into it.
Yeah.
And you kind of answered a little bit about my first question, but we can take it a little bit further. You talked about 15,000 members. You talked about 900 organizations. You talked about the U.S. and Canada. I know that NextUp was a creation of thought leaders it was born of the CPG and retail industry. Can you walk us through kind of the origins of this and give us a little bit of a better understanding of kind of the industry verticals that you're now seeing represented in your membership?
So we found our roots 20 years ago in primarily CPG and retail. And there was a handful of enlightened, wickedly brilliant business leaders, both men and women, who looked around them, in the CPG and retail industries and saw that there was no diversity in gender and ethnicity, across many dimensions. And as enlightened and as forward thinking as they were, they said, hey, we got to change this, because in order for us to be successful ourselves as leaders and our corporate brands to be successful, we need to be better serving our consumer, and consumers are diverse, right? And that diversity needs to be found in our organizations, in our teams, in our culture, that mindset of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, but more importantly, in our business strategies. And so they planted the seed and started a community. It was a small but mighty community. The first region was founded in the New England area in Boston. What's unique about New, there's many other great organizations that focus on gender equality, but where we stand apart is, one, we're an incredible community of scale. We're the largest of our sorts. And two, we don't just provide, research, data, or insights. We provide experiences. We provide networking. We provide solutions. And, through the years, this legacy group, I'm humbled by them. I wouldn't even be sitting here today in the role that I have, this blessing of my why. They helped us scale. But some of the things that we've shifted and transformed over the last couple of years, I think have even better positioned us for the future and for really scaling, the impact and delivering the progress that's needed on, behalf of all women in business. But, the first and foremost, we went virtual, just like everybody else did, right? Overnight. And literally, it was so funny. We were, sorry, WebEx, but we were struggling with WebEx, not always the most reliable of platforms. And we literally, I kid you not, the week prior to the whole United States and, ultimately full world shutting down, we had just shifted over to Zoom. And, and as Shri and Peter, you both know, we were primarily face to face. It was very much an in-person journey and community and set of experiences. And, we stumbled our way through it, right? We learned quickly, sink or swim. But the beautiful thing about it was we were able to touch and impact and communicate with and engage exponentially more people and so much more cost effectively too. So the virtual world really, really helped us to transform how we can engage, 24/7. We even have now a virtual region. So our newest region has been formed by a whole group of leaders across the United States and Canada, and all of the programming is now 100% virtual. That said, our other regions are hybrid, so we have a mix, and we, adhere to all of the safety, COVID regulations and restrictions that should be. The other thing too, like organically, we went global. I had a couple of partners come to me over the last couple of months, and they're like, just so you know, I started handing out our memberships globally, and I hope you're okay with that. And I'm like, hell yeah. So we're in the next year or two are going to be in a more strategic and more structured and formal way, be scaling our footprint, globally. But in the interim, we're just thrilled, that we've been able to reach other countries. And then the other thing too, when we talk to transformation, there's really two core things that we've beyond, the virtual world and scaling that footprint and channel, but it's two core priorities. One is allyship. And like I said, you two epitomize what it is to be that enlightened and unwavering ally. And the second is really owning that all in our advancing all women in business. And quite frankly, it's not just women. It's women. It's any, ethnic community that's been marginalized. And it's also, we're going to be expanding our partnership to support those in the LGBTQIA plus community as well. And so any community that is marginalized, there's just universal application from what we do. In supporting them and helping to guide, their employers and their corporate brands. And, so, women of color, the LGBTQIA plus community, we're expanding, our focus and prioritization to include them as well as just all women in general.
How lucky are we, Peter, that she chose to come on this show and get that message out.
Thank you.
That the name Next Up, now I'm connecting the dots, it's not just about women, but I am in awe that you have just declared that you'll be supporting the LGBTQA community. Hats off.
Absolutely.
And the other power statement you made here that'll stay with me for life is women are not broken. Let me repeat. Yeah. Women are not broken. They do not need to be fixed. The problem lies elsewhere that it needs to be fixed. So
yeah,
I wanted to make sure I repeat that, because that is such a power statement in the reality of what we see every single day.
yeah.
So keeping that as the backdrop, Sarah, I'd love to get into what are some of those core things that women have to encounter in other places that are broken, that Next Up is seeking to address through resources, activities, and how do you then end up measuring the impact that you can have?
Yeah.
Because clearly you are having an impact.
Yeah, no. And a lot of too, and we solicited, it was like a year-long journey. We worked with a great group called Envision at agency who partnered with a local Chicago agency. And now we're working with Fleischman Hillard, to take it out, globally to the market. But a lot of the feedback we heard was, we're not monolithic. Not all women are the same, or those who identify as women, or those who don't even identify as women, they identify as non-binary. But everyone's personal and professional journey is unique and different. And the sad reality is sometimes the diversity, that uniqueness that is the foundation of your identity, it's discounted. It's discriminated against, right? And so what Next Up is now focused on is from that leader perspective. Your life, your career, it's a journey. And depending on where you're at in your journey, you may have different, challenges or opportunities, right? You may have different aspirations. And so, for example, we were called Network of Executive Women. And this broke my heart as a CEO, I would hear from men, I don't think I can belong. This is a women's group. I know, thumbs down, right? I would hear from women of color. What I've kind of experienced through the years, you're not really here to support me. And then from newer generations, I'm not an executive. I'm fresh out of college. So for us, what we heard, and we heard it straight from the hearts and voices of all these incredible people who are at different points in their career journey, is, I got to focus on the here and now. What is my aspiration for this current role or current point of my journey? But I also need to be preparing and developing myself and my skills and my experiences and my network for what's next. So for those that are executives today, we love you. We have a C-suite executive community. For those that are fresh out of college, one of the things we're going to be doing is doing a better job partnering with the HBCUs. And we want to pull these incredible young leaders into our organization. Hey, and help, welcome them into this, professional world, and be there to help guide them. So for the female leaders, and then for the male allies, same thing. What's next up for you? Depending on where you're at in your allyship journey, here's the one thing I would say is, don't wait for somebody to ask you to be an ally. Shri and Peter, you didn't, right? So don't put the onus on women to ask, you put yourself out there. And so we are now, we have an incredible community and journey that you can join. It's called Beyond Allies. And we're also going to be developing a male ally advisory council. But it's step up, come. Educate yourself, listen, learn, we'll guide you in how to advocate. We'll guide you in how to take action. You need to take that first step. You need to take that initiative. The second thing, though, is from that corporate perspective, what should Next Up mean to them, and what are we going to provide? Well, it, and I know you've addressed this countless times in the 175 episodes you've had. But the most successful organizations are the ones they tackle now by anticipating what's going to happen in the future and building to it, right? And in the stock market, you're only as good as what you do next. So for our corporate partners, that's where we're going to guide you so that you can attract, you can retain and advance that top talent. We're going to guide you with the DIBA type strategies and initiatives that you need so that both internally and then externally, you can be as successful as you can, really supporting those diverse and marginalized communities, whether they're employees within your organization or their customers. who you serve. And we did an awesome show today on body positivity. And we talked a lot about retailers and, retailers like your Targets, your Gap, Athleta, Old Navy. They are branching beyond the standard sizes, right? Target eliminated the young boys and the young girls departments, and now they call it young adults. So there's a lot of, Next Up is going to be all about, hey, tackle the here and now in your career or in your company, your industry, and we're going to guide you to figure out what's coming next, because that will set you up for success.
You mentioned, as an aside, that you're in not just the U.S., but Canada now. Hey, Mom, did you hear that? Did you hear that, Mom? We're in Canada now. My mother's up in Halifax, and it reminded me.
I love Halifax.
It was almost 14 years to the day that the Governor General installed my mother as a member of the Order of Canada, which for our American audience, that's like getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So my mom is my biggest role model. I am so proud of her performance. And that's why this is such an important cause to me, because I've watched her deal with so many obstacles and her to overcome them in her career success. So enough about my personal family. So
Hi, Mom.
I hopefully by now she does listen. She gives me feedback. That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Love feedback. So especially from your mom.
I'll take her feedback too. I always welcome feedback.
She will be careful. I give you her email address. But in any event.
Not competing, but my 80-year-old mom from India listens to.
Yeah. I'll take her feedback too.
Oh, yeah. Take it all.
Be my adopted
mom.
So
hopefully by now we've started to pique the curiosity of our audience, and they're starting to think, hey, is Next Up right for me? And so how do both companies partner with Next Up? And what can they offer their employees through this partnership? But also, can individuals be a part of Next Up absent a corporate partnership?
Yes and yes, and I'll tell you how. So, as you would imagine, because the origin, the root cause of discrimination, bias, you name it, all the obstacles that are holding back women or, marginalized diverse communities typically sits in society and culture. Our business model focuses on, we're going to partner with corporate C-suite leaders and corporate organizations, because that's where we can deliver the most impact and progress. And so we, as I shared, we, partner with over 900 different companies across the regions and nationally and up in Canada. And, if you are interested in exploring a partnership with us, we would love it. You can, find contact information on our site at nextupisnow.org.
Hey, Sarah, I heard you've got a new corporate partner for 2022, some company called Fetch Rewards. I'm trying to remember where I heard of that.
That was truly the feather in our cap, Peter. We had been chasing that brand forever. And as you can imagine, their dance card is always full. No, they are amazing. But great. Service providers, tech companies, you name it. We've got a whole host of different organizations, and what corporate partners love about investing in new is that, it allows them through new to invest in, scaling out and integrating and applying DIBA type strategies within their culture and their organization. It allows them to invest, in their leaders, their female leaders, their, male allies. Quite frankly, it allows them to build awareness of their brand in the marketplace, as they're given opportunities to sponsor regional programming or national programming, or, to engage, in any one of the channels in which we, communicate and engage in. There's always great opportunities. And then, quite frankly, it sends a very strong signal out to the marketplace. And if you are publicly traded, to your shareholders, that you are investing in ESG. You are investing in sustainability, in your business model and in your brand. And so there's multiple dimensions in which, by investing and partnering with New, you're going to see that return, from a financial and a business perspective. So absolutely, there's contact info in there. Please reach out. You'll be in the best of company with incredible brands like Fetch. And then secondarily, yes, as an individual, you can also join. Same place, go to our website, NextUp now. And we have individual memberships. And again, people engage with us in so many different ways. They can volunteer and help us bring our mission to life at the regions. And you can engage in regional programming. You can engage with us virtually through our podcasts, through virtual leadership development workshops that we do every month. We have newsletters galore. We've got all sorts of virtual content on our site. We've got national programming. We've got conferences. And then we've got more formal and structured leadership development programming. And when you join with us as an individual member, every single member is given access to a leadership assessment that comes free with your membership. It's like $1,000 market value. And what that allows you to do is assess, okay, where am I at on my leadership journey? What do I need to be learning more about? And how do I need to continue to develop myself? And we have an industrial psychologist in our internal team who will walk and talk you through this assessment. And then it helps point you in the right types of, webinars or speakers or panels that you might want to listen to that really build on those skills that you need to develop as a leader. So a lot of great leadership development and networking opportunities.
So Sarah, my next question is actually a simple one, but I think a very important one because you mentioned it multiple times on this podcast, which is the role of men as allies in realizing the mission of NextUp. So expand on this a little bit. Talk to men. Why is the allyship important? What can men do? And then how can women, LGBTQA, enlist men to be allies?
Yes. Thank you for stressing that point. As I said before, do not wait for someone to ask you. You need to take that initiative to step up. And in order for you to be, let's go back just to that base level, right? You're in a business leadership role. And in order for you to be successful as a business leader or for your organization to be successful, you have to constantly be innovating, right? You need to be looking and leaning in and leading to the future. And how does that happen? Well, that happens by innovating. That happens by gathering unique and different perspectives. And if all you do is surround yourself with people who look like you and think like you and act like you, we can all predict where that's going to end up, right? So as a leader, you need to be surrounding yourself. That humble leader is that person that says, I need people who know more and different things than I do. And so allyship is the perfect way to make that happen. So, the morality, the sensitivity, you're a good human aside, if all that motivates you is that business sense, okay, then let that drive you as to why you need to become an ally and why you need to be stepping up and making sure that your team, your entire company, the knowledge and the facts and the opinions and the feedback that you gather, it all needs to be diverse. You need to make sure that it's laddering up to the diverse customer base that you are in all likelihood serving. And you also need to be making sure that there's this, not conflict, but there's just this healthy diversity of thought and discussion and, questions and challenges being raised. And that only happens when you've got people who've had different upbringings. They've been exposed to different cultures. They've been raised differently. They have different genders, different identities, gender identities, sexual orientations, you name it, you need to be surrounding yourself. And so how you do that is, let's say you've got great structure within your organization, from a DIBA perspective. If you do, there are, in all likelihood, business resource groups or employee resource groups, communities, affinity communities and groups. Join one and join a community that you're not as familiar with. And the best thing you can do is go in and listen and learn. Educate yourself by listening and learning. And then coordinating and requesting conversations with others who can share with you and enlighten you. You don't ever want to put the onus or the responsibility on the diverse or the marginalized leader community to educate you. We had a discussion a couple months back, and it was a number of incredible women of color, and we had an incredible leader, the black girl doctor, Dr. Tay. And in that discussion, we were talking about, well, how do you educate yourselves? And all three women said, there's this thing called Google, right? Google it. And I'm sure you do that, Shree and Peter, right? For every show, that's the first thing I do for my shows. I Google it, but educate yourself. So seek those communities, seek those individuals that are open to having those really open and transparent and vulnerable conversations, and ask them, hey, how can I be of help? But then you have to step up. You have to advocate, and you end up having to take action on behalf. And as a leader, you have the power and the authority to do that. But what's most important, and you'll hear it, and it sounds so cliche, but you can't say it enough. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because you're going to put yourself in this situation where, you're going to make mistakes. You're probably going to trip up and say the wrong thing. You know what you do? You acknowledge it, you apologize, you get educated, and you move on. If you don't have that structure in your group, then that's where I would say go to your head of HR or your head of, DEI or IDE, however anybody phrases it in their organization, and suggest that it be started. And then there are also great external groups like Next Up now, right? Yeah. That's going to take a while. I'm going to have to, yeah. But, great groups like Next Up, where come to us, we'll help educate you. We'll help guide you along that journey through content and curriculum and communities that we have in play. But it's, you cannot wait. You have to take action. You have to take the initiative. And, I can't, stress that enough.
I want to remind our audience that we are speaking with Sarah Alter, President and CEO of Next Up, formerly known as Network of Executive Women. So, Sarah, let's explore the networking component of Next Up. Would you help dimensionalize why you think networking is such an important enabling culture to achieve your stated mission? What are some of the core ways that Next Up fosters networking at the community level?
Yeah, no, networking, your network is a core component to your career success, core component. And, we talk about this, quite regularly. And I'm teed up to do a conversation on this in a couple of weeks at Microsoft. But you have your internal network, and then you have your external network, right? And your internal network within your organization, that's going to help pave the way for a long and wide runway in career, right? You don't ever want to be a one-trick pony. And so you have to go out of your way, and the organization should be going out of their way to provide you with support structure in terms of, mentors, sponsors, allies. It's a great way for you to, beyond your direct boss, which you always have to nurture and curate and really strengthen, that core and pivotal relationship. But, you need to be nurturing those other executive leader relationships and build that awareness of you as an asset. for the organization. But you also need to, like I said, you don't want to be that one-trick pony. So you need to explore other departments and teams and functions and initiatives and projects and expose yourself to those other areas of your business so that, you can broaden your awareness, but more importantly, broaden your skills and your knowledge, and then be viewed as somebody who can actually be moved around more easily and moved up, more easily. So there's that internal network. NextUp provides that perfect way to build your external network, because it's just as important then that you build your external network. And in some cases, for example, if you're in a business development or sales role, and we have a number of partners who've invested NextUp memberships and engagement within their sales organization, their account management, their business development teams. And it serves them so well, because guess what? All of their current customers or prospects or clients or prospect clients are members of New. So they can engage and attend, our programming and interact with who they serve. And again, by, engaging and participating, it also sends a strong signal that, their brand clearly stands for more than just business. It stands for, bigger platforms, bigger priorities. And then it also, quite frankly, none of us ever thinks we're going to need to look for a new job tomorrow, right? Our journeys happen, and I experienced it the hard way. I realized I didn't have a network when I really needed it, when I reached a point in my career. And so I invested, I doubled and tripled down in making sure that never, ever happened again. And so, this external network can serve you in that vein. And then it also just helps to continue to educate yourself. The more knowledge you have on what's going on in the marketplace, you can bring that back to your current job and to your company and, and be all the more valuable, and that you've got a pulse of what's going on in technology, what's going on in financial services, what's going on in CPG or in retail, or where service providers, are prioritizing their thought leadership. There's just a plethora of opportunities for you to just continue to develop your knowledge, to develop your experiences, and really just make yourself that much more valuable. And quite frankly, it's investing in yourself for the long run. And you know what? We have people who have made lifelong friendships that have spanned the 20 years. From day one, and they're best of friends today. So there's just a tremendous amount of value, and you cannot discount the importance of your network, both internally and externally. And NextUp can help you with both.
So well said. Like you too, Sarah, I think there was a point in time when I woke up one day and realized I actually don't have a strong, as hard as it may be to believe and for the listeners to believe, that's my reality. But, a couple of years ago when I needed it the most, I was like, wow, all this time I invest in talking to people talking to me.
Yeah.
Every single day, I actually don't have a strong network, but what a powerful message, right?
Yeah.
So let me close out by asking the last question,
Sure.
Which is, we have to talk about your radio show and podcast, Advancing
Thank
All
you.
Women. What are you typically seeing as things that come up? What do you explore on the radio show? And where do your guests typically come from? And then how is the overall NextUp community responding to that show?
Yeah, no. Okay. So first and foremost, I'm humbled and I'm so honored to be on this podcast, because we are but like a baby when it compares to the scale and the impact that the CPG guys have been able to deliver. So I look to them as a role model, and they've been so gracious to help promote us and provide us with advice and guidance. So thank you both for doing that. And they are going to be showing up on my podcast. So stay tuned. So, we started this back in May of, 21, and it was like a random connection. We partner with Voice America Internet Radio Group, and it's a global, partnership. And we started it because we've gotten a ton of feedback from our members. Okay, the Zoom fatigue thing, it's super real. And you know what? I don't want to be with you, next up at, we used to do a lot of our programming like early in the morning or, late at night after the work hours, and people were at home and they were having, to be and wanted to be, with their families, both before or after work. So we're like, okay, let's do podcasts. Let's give it a go. And Voice America is a radio show. And like Peter said, it's live every Friday, but then it flips into a podcast. And, I think we did our 37th show. So we have a ways to go here, barely scratching the surface relative to you gentlemen. But we've got over 40,000 listeners and they're global, which is exciting, but the preponderance of it is US based. And then the preponderance of the engagement comes through the podcast. We started by tackling the topics that we were all challenged by, right, in the workplace and in business as COVID unfolded. And the cycles kept hitting us. We thought we were past the first cycle and then the second cycle hit us. And, what was it that we were needing to do to better serve our remote workers and, and you name it. And we were covering all of the core DIBA type topics and issues. And then we found that the conversations and the shows and the podcasts that really clicked were the ones where we were covering, we've referred to them at Next Up as pivot points. And those were those personal and professional milestones or experiences that traditionally, when they unfolded, companies said, or their bosses said, yeah, don't come to me with that. Here's that 1-800-EAP number. So we are now, and we're finding tremendous success in bringing in, we try to bring in at least a thought leader every show, someone who can guide us through it. And then 2 of our incredible members or partners who have personally navigated their way, through that journey. So for example, Peter shared, we covered mental health last week, and we had an incredible leader at Nestle who founded their first mental health, ERG. Today we covered body positivity, and we covered, Amazon has a body positivity ERG. So what we're trying to do is provide those business leaders, that's who's listening to us, with the advice and guidance and best practices of, how do you tackle these pivot points, because we saw a collision of dynamics that truly challenged us. And we also saw all of our consumers, our employees, all of us say, hey, guess what? You know what? I am bringing my whole self to work now. I'm not checking it at the door. And I expect my boss, my leaders, my company to support the full self, the full body. And don't just give me dental, vision, and an EAP. I need pet insurance. I'm actually a caretaker for my elderly parents. I'm going through a divorce, so we're going to be covering, and I'm going to continue to push the issue until I get in trouble. But I'm going to continue to push the issue on these topics and really try and cover these conversations that, that companies are now finally realizing they need to cover. And so we're going to provide them with the resources, the toolkits, the best practices, the support services to help guide them through it, because we all as employees expect that and need that and want that now. And so we need to ride that transformation.
Sri, you hear that? She's a troublemaker. I knew she was one of us from the beginning. Anyhow, I want to remind our audience that all of our content is available on cpgguys.com. It's all free. And please do follow us on LinkedIn so you can keep up with everything we're trying to help amplify, including things like Next Up and its mission to advance all women. Sarah, we can't thank you enough
for
joining us today, explaining to us about the rebranding, where NextUp is taking the direction of the organization, how it's helping so many different communities advance. We're so grateful to be partnered with you, and we look forward to doing so much more with you in the future and joining you in your podcast.
Consider it an invite. Thank you so much, Sri and Peter, one, for being such great supporters of NextUp, for being enlightened male allies, and for allowing me to share my story today. Thank you.
Sri, what do you think? How you feeling? I'm pretty emotional right now.
Wow, Peter. So, like I said right up front, when I heard Sarah say, women are not broken, they don't need to be fixed, the problem lies elsewhere, I'm like, a light bulb just went off. And then she came on to the next statement right after that, talked about the mission of NextUp. It's women, it's all those who need help. And then she talked about LGBTQA. So I'm in awe.
All right, Sri. Well, thanks for joining me as always on this journey. This was another power-packed episode. And to our audience, as always, we're greatly appreciative that you choose to spend time with us a couple times a week. We love doing this, and we love your feedback. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you on the next episode of the CPG Guys. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.